Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Business Point on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining on to this edition of the program. Today, we'll be looking at lots of things. Eyebrows have been rising up from the very moment the tax reform bill were mentioned. We looked at it mostly from the northern region, where they said it's definitely not going to benefit those from the north. A few persons from the south, and southeast also reacted, but mainly those from the eastern part of the country didn't get to react so much in line with that, looking at if they're okay with the bill. So looking at it now, looking at the 2025 budget that has been presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the Senate to get passed into law, which is expected to happen at the last of the 31st of this month. Now, the Nigerian Association of Chamber of Commerce and Industry members have also reacted to the bill, saying it's not actually looking like what it's supposed to look like, in the sense that looking at Nigerian economy, most of the projections that are stated in the 2025 budget is going to be a concern looking at our current economic situation. And that reaction has come in line with the bill still by the Northerners, saying the fact that the sharing formula of the VAT is also going to be another concern in that light. Well, we'll be having those conversations, and then we'll also talk about Nigeria becoming officially a member country, a partner country rather, with the BRICS. We're going to see how that is going to facilitate the growth of Nigerian GDP, economy, and again, cut down inflation, which is one of the major concerns. We'll also look at the angle of the global market, oil price surging to over $80 per barrel, and how it's reflecting to Nigerian economy. So those are the major talking points we'll be looking at today. But before we dive into all of that, let me bring you up to speed with what the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mining and Agriculture says that Nigeria's 2024 economic performance was unsatisfactory for the present private sector, calling for economic reforms to address imbalance threatening the private sector in the country. The body explained that all data metrics and statistics confirmed that the private sector bore fully the negative burdens of nation's current economic reforms, facing the harsh conditions including high inflation, increase in borrowing costs, and currency devaluation. Moving away from that, the Northern Democrats also reacted in line with the VAT when they made the mention of the fact that the League of Northern Democrats have rejected the devaluation formula proposed in the ongoing tax reform decision, warning that it could deepen regional inequality if not properly defined. The group commended the Nigerian Governors Forum for endorsing a valued added tax sharing formula of 50% based on equality, 30% based on diversion, and 20% on population. Now they are happy with this path, but still, for the bill to be passed, there's also a concern saying if they have so much concerns that they're looking at, and if those concerns are not being treated, it's going to cause inequality. So we are going to be looking at what this bill is actually going to do to Nigerian economy generally, and not just segregating it to what is going to happen to this path and what's going to happen to this path, because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his committee actually wants it for it to benefit the entire country, so, and also to help Nigerian economy and GDP grow. So looking at all of this now, we'll be having this conversation. I have a guest who will be joining me virtually, but we would introduce the guest after this quick break. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back. Yeah, many thanks for staying with us as we still await our guest due to some technical issues from his own end. We're hoping he could join us before we wrap up the conversation today. Now, looking at the current incidents going on within the value added tax and the current governors from reacting to the reversing of the value added tax, there were concerns that came up a little bit before the close of 2024, where it was rumored around that the value added tax was going to hit 10% from 7.5%. So it was stated as still 7%. So the reversing now is what the Governors Forum are happy and endorsing. Then there's been a concern now about the sharing formula of this valued added tax. 50% based on equality, 30% on diversion, and then 20% on population. This is where a whole lot of Nigerians are, reacting to. Financial analysts, business analysts, and public affairs analysts are reacting, negatively to this. They said more needs to come to the masses, in the sense that they need more people. Nigerians need avenues for infrastructure, healthcare, as well as businesses, infrastructure and healthcare, basically education. So these sectors now are lacking. This is where the people of Nigeria would be able to benefit more from. And then when this does happen, if the masses, the population is getting 20%, that means there's just a whole lot there's very much little that 20% of the said amount would be able to do for the population in terms of infrastructure, healthcare, road networks, and all of that. Due to bad road networks, we've been able to see is sad events that occurred just this past weekend, where Richie copped out over 80 lives just in Niger State by a tanker which fell and then crashed, and then a whole lot due to poverty and all. But that is not just a major concern. Individuals need to abstain whenever they see things like this happening, in terms of when tanker falls and then fuel spilling off. On a normal note, there might be a high chance for individuals to be able to, get burned, or if once a clash happens. But moving away from that, there is hunger in the land, and then the inflation currently, food inflation alone is at 40%, and then the entire basket of inflation is at 34.80%, which is a massive concern for industries. The food items now in the market surging high, though it looked as if the price was going to tank for a little bit, but that didn't really happen. Now the global market is looking at, in the sense that the fuel crude price has gone up to $80 per barrel. Now, those are a lot of challenges that is posing negatively to Nigerian economy. That's why the Chamber of Commerce have looked at the whole statistics, and then they are coming up with the conclusion that it's not feasible with what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his economic team has, presented to the Senate. Though it's still under review, a lot of concerns have been raised for those 2025 budget. Concerns are still on, eyebrows are still going up for the fact of the tax reform bills, and a whole lot of persons are really now showing excitement. But looking at those angles now, the president feels this is the right approach. Like he has always mentioned, that the suffering of Nigeria is just like a woman in labor that is going to pass. But still, Nigerians have reacted. Why IMF will be talking about the fact that it's going to take Nigerian 10 to 15 years with these tax reform bills before Nigerian economy will be able to rebound. If the IMF are actually saying all of it, that means there are things that are still not in place. This is what Nigerians are saying. There are things that are still not in place that is making Nigerians think, that's making IMF rather think that it's going to take Nigerians 10 to 15 years. Look at it from this angle now. These policies have been brought in by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In Nigerian economy, or in Nigerian political system rather, we have 4-year tenure. Now, what happens when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu don't get to rerun for 2027 election? What happens then? What if Nigeria have a new president and he decides to abolish all of these reform bills? What then happened to the economy? Are we going to go back 20 years? And again, there's also some other concerns coming from MBS, where policy analysts and have reacted differently that the NBS is actually now releasing the actual report of Nigerian facial data. So looking at all of this now, and then the facial policies and the Central Bank of Nigeria tightening the monetary policies, people have argued that that's not the way to help curb out inflation. The way to curb out inflation is to have more production and then a flow of naira. Looking at all of those now, the Central Bank of Nigeria have said the best approach, by the Monetary Committee is to tighten the monetary policy and again increase interest rate in terms of borrowing. This now angle has crippled SMEs, and then the fastest growers of any country's economy are actually the SMEs. Yes, the small scale enterprises. Those are the major guys that grow up a country's economy. So when we're looking at all of these concerns now, and then we are not seeing those SMEs having the power to be able to borrow, and then the purchasing power of individuals is also being shortened. So where do Nigerians go from here? This is very, very concerning. A whole lot of Nigerians have reacted differently. Now, on the other note, Nigeria is now a partner country with the BRICS. Looking at what's going on within Russia and Ukraine, there've been a whole lot of concern. These are the major countries that import grains, and Nigerians have had bilateral business relationship with these regions. Now, we're looking at all of these angles now, and then this partnership with Russia and Brazil, South Africa, India, and China is also immense. Though Indonesia and the Philippines and also India themselves have rejected the BRICS currency just a couple of days ago, and then now we are still analyzing and assessing to see what is actually going to happen, how this partnership is going to help Nigerian economy develop and then grow more. So this is a whole lot going on within the sector, and then Nigerians are also having concerns, massive concerns in line with the inflation measures and things that can be done to curb it out. In President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2025 budget, he mentioned that they're looking to curb down inflation to 15%. Currently, inflation is at 34.80%. So now he's looking to cut it by 50%. But analysts have actually looked at the books and then say the best way, or if the inflation is going to be cut, it's going to be cut down to 27.2%. That's by the end of 2025. Talking about December now, then in the year 2026, they are looking that it's going to drop down again to 20%. So now, what measures now Nigerians are asking is the president trying to use to be able to ascertain the fact that him and his team will be able to cut down inflation to 15% in the year 2025? Those are another challenging questions that Nigerians are asking. But moving away from Nigerian economy, let's look at the cryptocurrency. We've seen projection for Bitcoin that we said this year 2025 is going to hit around $150,000 to $180,000. Now, what are going to be the key drivers of all of these? Is going to just talk about or look around the activities going on within the community of cryptocurrencies. Now, that's this morning, possibly the figures must have changed due to the trajectory of how the cryptocurrency world works. Bitcoin is at 109,000 US dollars. And looking at all of this now, other coins are also rallying around and coming up, just like the Trump coin is currently at $60. We're seeing Ethereum, which is also hitting around $2,700 as at this morning, and then we're seeing other cryptocurrencies also coming up, and this trajectory is moving faster. So now, with everything going on and then projection from crypto analysts, they've actually said that Bitcoin is going to hit up to 180,000 to 200,000 US dollars before the close of the year 2024. You could remember in the year 2020, a projection came that come 2024, before December, Bitcoin is going to hit 100,000 US dollar mark. And then we saw that happen in the month of November before December. So all of these things now looks at the participation and the overhauling of the system. So the policies that are being put in place and every other algorithm that helps this sector grow is actually in place. So with all of this now, the adoption of cryptocurrency is actually on a massive rise, which Nigeria is actually the third in the world that is really adopting cryptocurrency into its day-to-day activities. SEC also making plans, and then the Federal Inland Revenue Services also making plans on how taxation will be happening between those sectors. Due to some technical issues from the end of our guests, we weren't able to have this conversation that we were supposed to have. Well, we'll be going on another quick break, and then when we come back, we'll wrap up to this edition of Business Points. Please do stay with us. Yes, many thanks for staying with us as we wrap up today's edition of Business Point. The group of the Northern Democrats have reacted differently. You know, last year came as a shock to the Nigerian economy. You know, it actually came in the year 2023 when the president, you know, took away fuel subsidy, and then also made the fact that, and then, you know, floated the Nigerian naira. Now the Nigerian naira has been on a back and forth, which impacted negatively on the economy last year. And then looking at the trajectory now, all of those, the president in his bill for 2025 said Nigerian naira is expected to stabilize at 1,500. Fairly, from December 2024, we've witnessed that the Nigerian naira has been able to stabilize around 1,530 naira to 1,538 naira respectively, and then on the black market is being traded at 1,660 naira at max. So looking at all of those now, we've been able to witness a little bit of stability in that financial sector. But what then happens if there is a dip? What then happens when the Nigerian naira can't be able to stabilize? What then will the president and his economic team do to be able to see that the GDP of Nigeria gains at 3.7% as it has been projected in the bill? So all of these things now are concerns that Nigerians are bringing up, and then we're hoping to see other initiatives that has been created by this current administration gets fully implemented, because on paper, as tax reform experts and also fiscal policy analysts have always made mention of the fact that Nigerians' initiatives are actually very, very good on paper, but where the problem is majorly is when it's time for implementation. We hope this year we see a whole lot of, you know, initiatives being implemented to its teeth, and then we hope that Nigerians enjoy at the end of the day, and the Nigerian economy, you know, gets back on its feet. Based on rebasing that is going to happen on the 31st of this month, we're expecting to see that Nigerian inflationary measures is actually going to drop down to a single-digit number, which a lot of persons have argued that that is not even going to happen anytime soon. But Nigerians are optimistic and hoping that with this rebasing of the economy, there would be a certain level of positive change, and that the Nigerian economy would be on a bullish run before the second quarter of the year runs out. My name is Samuel Odi. This is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Business Point. I'll see you again tomorrow as we talk more business. Bye for now.